All right, welcome guys. I am so excited for this workshop today. I've been looking forward to this for the last couple months when I decided that this is what I really wanted to teach on and bring to everybody here. So this is creating content that converts without feeling salesy. So chances are if you landed here today, you know that you need to create content in order to grow your business. So you're trying to figure out a way to do that that doesn't like totally suck or drain your energy or feel like icky. And you probably also have a strong, genuine desire to actually help people. And you know that your work changes lives. And we know that more clients equals more impact. So let's bring it all together, right? And that's really the lens that I like to look at this through here is not necessarily just content as a means to an end to make a sale. Yes, that is part of the journey, but it's also about service, right? It's also about showing up and really sharing your gifts and when we look at it in that lens, it just feels a lot lighter. It doesn't feel as much like we're forcing something or trying to over explain ourselves or anything like that. And I just got to note that my internet is unstable. So if anything gets funky, just wave me down. Okay. All right. So that's what we're going to be diving into today. Now, before we do that, you guys in my world know I always like to start with a little grounding, centering exercise to really just bring us into the present moment for this journey together. So, if it's comfortable for you, I invite you to allow your eyes to close, maybe bringing a hand over the heart or anywhere else on your body that feels supportive. Taking a few really deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Maybe finding a little movement in your body, rocking side to side, coming into a stretch, anything that feels good. Staying anchored now in the heart space as you continue to breathe in through the nose and out through your mouth. Maybe even making an audible sound on that exhale, bringing some energy into the throat. And as you're staying tuned into your body, just notice when you think about content, what comes up in your body? Maybe you feel tension, a little anxiety. Maybe instantly you feel pressured or rushed. Or maybe it feels good. Maybe it feels exciting. Maybe it feels like this is something you know is actually going to help you bring your work to more people and you're excited to learn this new skill and to find your way of showing up. And whatever's coming up, just be with it without changing it, without making it right or wrong or judging. Staying anchored in the heart, breathing in and out. And bringing in a feeling of love, of compassion, of gratitude. Maybe it's feeling this way around the work that you get to do in this life, the gifts that you have to bring to the world, to bring to your people. Maybe gratitude for some of your favorite clients that you've worked with. Maybe gratitude for the journey that you've been on that's brought you here now. And let that feeling expand. And setting an intention here to stay present, to stay aware, to notice what comes up for you. Because talking about visibility, content, all of these things can be triggering in some ways, and just being gentle with yourself and being open to receive whatever it is you need during this time to help bring your mission forward. And then when you're ready, you can bring your awareness to your eyes and allow them to open. Lovely. All right. So before we dive into anything, I just want to give a little bit of a background for those who maybe don't know much about me or where I came from, how I got here. So I just want to share a little bit of that. So hello, Alyssa Knapp here. I'm a holistic business mentor and a systems strategist. I've been in health and wellness for about 18 years. So way before I ever started a business, although I've been an entrepreneur, it feels like my whole life. Ever since I was a kid, I would always find ways to make money, start businesses, babysitting businesses, car washing businesses. At one point, I went door to door just selling like random shit that I had. So always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Um, Back when I did start my career, it was in fitness and personal training that led me to my master's in kinesiology, where I studied the psychosocial and behavioral aspects of physical activity. I was particularly interested in how physical activity and the connection with the body helps us in all areas of our wellness and health as well. And then my own experiences, especially during this time in my college years and grad school years, I developed panic, I guess you would call it panic disorder, undiagnosed, but I was having panic attacks and anxiety and all of these things. And this led me to mindfulness, meditation, eventually Reiki. Um, and then after grad school, I went into corporate wellness. So I ended up running the health coaching and wellness programs for the company. At one point, it went bankrupt, the company I was working for. So I kind of had to make this decision like, all right, do I want to kind of stay in this, traditional world of corporate and work and all of that? Or do I want to be a maverick, go out on my own? And obviously, everybody here on this call knows, right? It takes a particular type of person to get out and do your own thing. And I just was feeling so called to it. So Reiki training led me to basically a massive spiritual awakening. I think a lot of us have been on that path, right? Probably multiple times at this point in our journeys. And at that point, that really changed the trajectory of my life for sure. I would say, like, broke me out of the matrix. At this point, I went into becoming a Reiki master teacher. And as my students started to want to build their own businesses, I transitioned and evolved into becoming a business coach. Um, since then, I've built courses, workshops, group programs, memberships, masterminds. I got my official business coaching certification in 2023. And since then, I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs at every stage of the game. Primarily, as most of you know in here, I work with other people in this holistic wellness space because this is really where I feel like we are making the biggest impact right now in these like absolutely wild times. We are all here for a purpose now doing this work. And that's why I really like to help kind of bridge that gap between the work we're doing to change the world and what that means in terms of business and marketing and things of that nature. So these days, as I mentioned before, my zone of genius is systems. So I help healers, holistic leaders build clear customer journeys, fine tune their offers, close the energy leaks that make a business feel like exhausting. Because when we're really tapped in, this can be such an expansive experience, entrepreneurship. It's a wild ride. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. There are so many ups and downs. Um, but it's so fun. It's all worth it, and it's more fun when we get to do it together. Also, on a personal note, I am a homeschooling mom of two kids full time, so it's not uncommon that they will pop their heads in here. Sometimes somebody needs a hug. We all know how it is, right? So that happens. But that life transition really led me to fine tune things even more, especially when it came to content and content creation. Because when I started having my kids home full time, I didn't have as much time as I did before to, forget about seeing clients and doing my admin work and all the back end stuff, but also, again, creating the content that's bringing new people into my world. So, it's been a really fun journey, honestly, figuring out how to make this work because it's always been the goal, right? Isn't that like the goal, like the goal? Work as little as possible, scale, try to make a little bit more, but not lose the depth of what it is that we're doing. So that's what I have so much fun helping other people with. Um, so now we are going to shift into talking about content. So before we get into that, I'm going to tell you this is the formula. They say there's no formula. This is my formula that I feel very connected to and that I think is super helpful for people like us who really care and give a shit about, like what we're putting out there. We have high standards, we have values that we want to live by, and because of that, the way that we do business, the way that we do marketing and the way that we show up is not necessarily the same as more mainstream ways of doing things. So in my formula, step one is just knowing yourself, honestly, like knowing yourself, what it is that you really want to be helping people with through your offers. And that even there is oftentimes where people will get tripped up. The second step is becoming your own biggest fan and your personal hype woman. So really believing so hard in what you do, having the confidence with what you do. That is so important, and really being your own cheerleader instead of that inner critic turning on saying you should be doing more, you could be doing better. Well, this person does this person did that, right? That sort of thing. So we have to get the mindset right in that sense. The third step is quality, not quantity. So this is where we're really sharing from the heart. And yes, consistency is important when it comes to content, but authenticity is queen. Authenticity is more important. Having that depth, having that feeling, that is really where our content starts to sink in for our communities. And step four is kind of a mix between two and three, but it's really just believing so hard in what it is you're putting it out there into the world. And so much so that you can detach from an outcome in a healthy way, right? So you're not putting something out with the expectation or anticipation that post or podcast or whatever needs to do something for you, but instead putting it out, just trusting that it's going to reach who it needs to reach, that the message is going to land with who it needs to land with, and not being scared of if people judge you, because the online world, like there's judgy people out there. I feel like we talked about this in a group recently with some of you, but there are places and spaces online where people might come after you with pitchforks. Some of them aren't even real, some of them are bots. Let's also just call that out. But we have to believe so much in what we're doing and what we're putting out there that we don't need to make anything else uh mean anything about us, right? Like anything that somebody might come at you. Little side note, little kind of funny story that happened to me over May. It was May. I was on vacation and I was completely offline and it felt so good. And I had seen this meme that talked something about how we just need like more presence and more stillness and all of these things. And I wrote a post about how much like this hit for me, especially being camping and feeling how just like addicted we all are to like information and consuming and all of these things, and how it felt so good not to consume and not to also be focused on like creating and doing and pumping things out and what's happening with the business. Like I really let it all go. So I was sharing that. And because I had my Substack growth program was going to be coming up within the next like month or two, I naturally tied that sentiment to the offer that I had coming up. And what was so funny about it was the post, like I wrote it all. I didn't use like ChatGPT or anything like that to write it. And I wrote from my heart. I was sharing all of this. Like it is really resonated with a lot of people. And then there were people who came at me in the comments because they were triggered that I then pitched something after this heartfelt like post about, not being, not wanting to be on social media and blah, 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 all of these things. And I laughed at it and I thought, oh my God, like there definitely was a version of me, that people pleaser version of me, that would have died and probably took it, like taken the post down, apologized, you know what I mean? To just feel like, oh my God, like, oh, was I too salesy? Like, did I, but no, like, because first of all, like what I wrote again came from my heart. I believed in what I said, and I believed in the program that I'm putting on. Like I believe in what I'm doing and how helpful it is for the people who really need it, right? So when you're in that energy, it's magnetic. because I got some hate on that post, and I also got, some people reaching out to me interested in it because they really resonated so hard. So I just wanted to share that little story because that's going to happen. That's going to happen. Like, that's life. We can't worry about how what we're putting out is going to be received necessarily, right? The last step is practicing heart brain coherence daily. So, this is really just that anchoring your awareness in the heart, breathing in and out of the heart space, bringing in that energy of love and compassion and gratitude. And you can choose just to hold that frequency and hold that vibration and just let it go where it needs to go. Or you can intentionally bring that energy, bring that love, and bring that into your business, into your content. Let what you need to share that day or in that podcast or whatever that thing is that you're doing, and to really come from that most aligned place. So those are a couple of key things that I wanted to just put out there before we dove deeper into anything else, because those, I feel like, if you don't take anything else from this little workshop here, just know that, right? Know that it's really about how you feel about what you're doing, clarity on what you're putting out there, and trusting, right? And trusting and having that healthy detachment. All right. So the next part that we're going to go into here, we're going to be getting out into some breakout rooms. So you guys are going to be chatting about this stuff together, because sometimes it's just easier than to just like journaling about things to actually like speak and verbally process and connect with each other on these things. So the first thing I want you guys to do is actually have a discussion with each other about who you are. So again, like I mentioned in my little 5-step framework there, that the first step in creating content that converts is clarity. And we can't go any further until we're crystal clear on who we are. Because people don't choose you because you're a trauma therapist or an acupuncturist or a functional medicine practitioner or a Reiki master, right? They choose you because they feel a connection with who you are. Right? It's more than your modality. It's not your niche that makes people say yes to working with you. It's your lived experience. It's your lineage. It's the way that you've actually walked through what you now guide others through. Sometimes it's not even connected to like the business or the work. Sometimes it's something completely adjacent to that, but only you know what that thing is for you. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to get out into breakout rooms. There's going to be, let's see how many are in here. 2, 4, 6, 8. Beautiful. 8. So why don't I'll just pair you guys up. So it'll be 2 in each room. I'll give you maybe like 4 minutes or so each to talk um, about who you are, what you do, and something important from your life that shaped like who you are now in this role as this, whatever, you're a healer, a practitioner, a service provider, like whatever you are, whatever you do. You're going to talk again about, share with this person who you are, what that thing is that you do, and then something from your life that shaped what you do or how you do it. Okay. And I will put that in the chat so you have it once you're out into your breakout rooms. But I'm going to pause. I've been talking for like 20 minutes. So I'm going to pause. Any questions before we head out into our breakout rooms? And feel free to put it in the chat or bring yourself off of mute. Okay. All right. Let's do this. Something should pop up on your screen to automatically join it when it comes in. How many did I say we were? I said there were 8 people on here, so we're going to do 4 breakout rooms. I'm just going to assign automatically. Actually, I'm not going to do, there's going to be 1 room of 3 because I didn't count my Fathom note taker as a person. So there's 7 of us. All right, so let's move you here. All right, so I'm going to open the rooms. So let's see. We're going to have, I'll give you again like 9 minutes or so. That way, the room with 3 people, you guys are going to get 3 minutes each. The room with 2 people, you guys are going to get 4 minutes each. And then I'll have somebody in each room just be the volunteer timekeeper. Okay, can we do it? We're good. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to open the rooms and I'll put in the chat into the group the questions just so you have it to anchor into. All right, see you guys soon. Welcome back, everybody. I always take it as a good sign when people don't rush back when the room is closing. We just turn the timer off so it doesn't come back on and on and on. All right. I hope that was fun. So the point of that was to, again, have some clarity before we dive deeper into who you are. And now it's actually time to check in with where your future clients are by understanding the buyer's journey. Because part of creating content that converts is knowing, again, who you are, what you do, and your person, right? So knowing these two things is really what creates that magnetic content, and obviously, your energy, your values, your brilliance, all of that coming through is what creates that authenticity, which is what makes it unique and yours. So, what I have up on the screen here, you guys can see it okay, right? Okay, thank you. So this is the buyer's journey. There are different variations of this out, but this is the one that I typically, use. Um, so what this tells us is that there are basically three stages in the buyer's journey. So there's the awareness stage. So this is where the person is learning that you exist, getting awareness that, again, you are a person. Consideration is that middle phase. That's where they're considering whether or not they want to work with you or that your offers are going to be helpful for them. And then decision is where they're actually deciding to opt in to work with you or not, right? So these three steps, awareness, consideration, and decision, are the buyer's journey. And our goal is to create content that meets our ideal clients where they are on this pathway, right? So we can't just create content that builds awareness of who we are and what we do, right? We can't just create content that's, value, showing our methods and proof and things like that, right? And we also can't just create content around the decision piece. And content around the decision piece is typically the like, hey, here's my offer. Here it is. It's that like tip that sales type of content. So when we're again creating content, we're really looking through the lens of making sure that we are hitting each of these different points of the journey. So awareness content, this is kind of the big vision of where it is that they're going, what's possible. This is also where you're creating resonance. So this is, content that's speaking to their desires, that it's awakening self-recognition. So that content is something that they can see themselves in. We're going to talk about this in a bit, but this is where also that emotional connection is going to be really important. And right off the bat, it helps them see themselves in what it is that you're putting out there and connecting it to the work that you do. The middle phase is consideration. So here's where the content that you're creating is really building a relationship with these people once they are in your world. So this type of content might be where you're sharing your unique methodology, where you show proof, like case studies, things like that. And this is where they're really starting to build trust in you, where they're starting to get to know who you are as a person and feel connected to you. And it's where you also get to share like your unique perspectives on things. Many of it, we all have them really, right? In our industries. I'm sure we all have these things that, these hot takes, right, on things in our industries. And it also helps to show your values. Like, this is what's important to me. This is who I am, because that's often why we buy, because our values align with who we're working with. Like, that's why a lot of people will say they want to work with me, because I have the background and the practice and everything of like the spiritual side. Like, I get all that, and that's important to me. And that's what I live and breathe every day. And then the decision content, this is where we're really empowering them to take the next step. Because as we know, we can only bring people so far when they're watching our content or doing our free things, right? So this is where we're helping them make the decision, empowering them to make the decision to take the next step. And we're providing that invitation for them to step into working with you. So here it's emphasizing choice, readiness. So letting them know this is what it looks like when you're ready for this next step, trusting them to trust in themselves to make the right decision. And also emphasizing that they're not buying help, they're really choosing expansion. So, it's not about you fixing their problem or you changing their life for them, right? By them coming into your offers, but it's really about them choosing to step in and be their own hero in this journey. All right, so now I want to show you that same thing, but in sort of a different lens here. So this is the conversion triad. So what we looked at before was the journey, the buyer's journey from, again, where they begin to getting to know you to then the opportunity to actually take the next step with you. So the conversion triad, these are elements that we want to weave into our content. There's buyer psychology within here. So the things that we need are emotion. So there needs to be emotion that creates a connection with people. We need to have clarity. So being really clear on what it is that you're offering, who it is that's going to benefit from working with you, right? If that's not clear in your content, then they're never going to know how to take the next step or what that next step is. And then that third part, that invitation to action. And a lot of the times, what I see is most people tend to hang out in one of these buckets and not the other, right? So we're missing that overlap. Mostly what I see are people a little bit too heavy on the emotional part, the vision and the stories. And the clarity. I would say these are the two most common. And then I would say where people tend to struggle the most is that invitation piece and weaving that in. And that's really important. And oftentimes it's important to look at why we're holding back from creating certain types of content. If we're holding back from the vision and the stories, maybe there's a fear of being seen, maybe there's some imposter syndrome. If it's clarity, could kind of be the same thing too. Like maybe you don't feel confident in explaining or describing what it is that you do, so it feels safer to just talk about the behind the scenes in your life and emotions and your own stories. And then the invitation, if you're not confident in selling, if you're holding on, for example, to a belief that selling is bad, is patriarchal and capitalistic, and I don't like it and I don't want to be a part of it. And right, if you have that type of energy, it's going to be really hard for you to create this type of content. So here, if we look at this emotion bubble, so if we're missing clarity and action, then the strategy becomes too clinical. So if we're missing the emotion, excuse me, then the strategy becomes too clinical. So the emotion helps to bring in the identity and again, that emotional resonance. And if we're missing the emotional piece, right, and we're only posting the clarity stuff like the education, the method, things of that, it can become too vague and spiritual, right? So we do want to have the clear frameworks and a grounded understanding of what's happening. And then, again, if we're missing the invitation type of content, then we're never going to have the conversion, or the conversion's going to be really, really hard to get, right? Oftentimes, what might happen is you might be having conversations with people and they're like, oh, I didn't even know you did that. I didn't even, I had no idea. Oh, wow. You do this, right? This happens all the time. And that's because there's not enough that invitation that like, oh, this is what it is that I do. And here's the step, to take. And then here's our golden middle, right? When we have all of these things together, then it's a, full body yes. We have emotion, we have clarity, there's the invitation, and it's very integrated. Now, it's important to note not every piece of content is going to do all of these things. It's not about fitting all of these things in one piece of content. Again, it's about having that ecosystem and making sure that you are, presenting each of these different types of pieces and opportunities. And one really good exercise is, I don't, I might mention this later, I can't remember, I have to look at my notes, but a great exercise is to just do an audit of your own content and look through and see where am I really, like, where is most of my content? Like, am I talking enough about the method, positioning myself as an authority? Am I giving enough invitations to take that next step with me? Okay. One more slide I'm going to go through, and then we're going to get back into some journaling. So I created this table just to give you a little bit more of an understanding of pillars that we can really anchor into, because I know sometimes, again, this is where like my systems brain starts to come in, where it's helpful for me to sort of look at contents as almost as like different buckets, like, oh, okay, vision, content, education, method, right? That sort of thing. And That way, when I'm creating, I like to let myself connect, ground, connect with the spirit of my business, the energy of the people who I'm meant to work with, who I want to connect with, right? And I let whatever comes through, and then from there, I can sort of work and say, all right, how do I make this into a post that's going to reach somebody at this different stage, right? How can I kind of position this thought, this download, this piece of content, this longer form thing into each of these different areas? So that's sort of my process. Now to go through these different pillars and kind of how they hit at each stage is pillar A is going to be vision. So that's that beginning of the buyer's journey where there's awareness. So that's reconnecting with what's possible. And the shift here is I see myself in this reality. So that's really what we want our reader, our audience to feel when they're reading that type of content. The second pillar is education. So here they're either in awareness or maybe in consideration. And here you're teaching key concepts lovingly. This also might be where you call out like BS that you see in your industry. So this might also be out like hot takes, like, education, like these are maybe the things that you see happening that are, quote unquote wrong. Not that we want to judge it, but just for the sake of here. Um, like that sort of thing, right? That can be this type of content. And this type of content is where the person's going to say, oh, this finally makes sense, right? So we're giving them that kind of aha moment in that type of content. And then pillar C is the method. So here again, somebody's going to be in that consideration phase. That's kind of who we're speaking to. And here the theme is co-creating transformation. So this approach really aligns with me. That's what they're going to say when they're reading that type of thing, because they could be, coaching can look different through because there's so many different lenses we can look through, right? Everybody coaches differently, niche is different, background's different, all of that sort of thing. Even let's say acupuncturist, right? Like, that type of profession, like even that can have a different approach, right, from practitioner to practitioner and everything else. So when you share what that method is for you, that's helping them see maybe how this is different, that sort of thing. And that's a good thing to talk about with your method too. Talk about what makes it different from other people who do it. And then pillar D is results. This is another one we collectively, I'm going to put myself in this bucket too. We don't do this one enough. We don't talk enough about the results that we are bringing to our clients. And we need to do that, guys, because people see themselves in those stories. That's what's going to help resonate. It builds social proof. There are so many reasons. And I get kind of lucky, I feel like, in this industry because usually my clients like to be talked about because then I can shout them out and give them some exposure and visibility. But, so sometimes we have to, depending your profession, right, we have to kind of de-identify, go around a little bit, right, for privacy and all of that. So here, when we're sharing those results, the theme is embodied joy and self-trust. So again, it's like she can do it, I can do it. They can do it, I can do it, right? It shows them that this is possible because they want to know that this is going to work for someone like me. And then that last pillar is action. So again, this is that decision phase. This is where we're giving them that opportunity to make a choice and for them to say, I am ready. All right. So our goal in a perfect world would be our content is consistently hitting each of these pillars, consistently hitting each of these marks. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be rigid about it or force yourself into something. Some of these are going to be easier for you to write than others. These certain types of content is going to come easier for you than others. That's okay. Nobody said this was always going to be easy, right? We know that this is a skill set that we are getting better at every day. And yeah, so I'll pause there with that note before I go off on tangents because I want to have plenty of time to journal. Before I open it up to where we're going next with a little bit more journaling or a little bit of journaling, I want to check in with you guys. How are we doing? How is this making sense so far? Good? Okay, awesome. All right. So we talked about that. So now we're going to do some rapid fire journaling. Now you might get mad at me because it's going to be so fast, but it's intentional because I don't want you to be in your head. I want you to just write literally like what's coming to mind with these, really quick thoughts. And you could always come back to this and journal about it again later. So I'm going to share my screen again. Oh, there it is. I swear buttons move on here. All right, screen two. Okay, so we should now see the Google Doc, my very fancy workbook. All right, so our first set of journaling prompts are going to be around your audience and their real moment. So I'm going to say these out loud real quick, then I'm going to put the timer on for 2 minutes. Like I said, you're going to be mad at me. It's going to be really fast. But this is what we're answering. We are looking for, when is your person realizing that they need help, right? Like what's actually happening in their lives, be as specific as possible. The next one is, what are they thinking in that moment? So go through, write down the thoughts that they're thinking. What is it that they're searching for? What questions are they asking? What feels most confusing or overwhelming to them? So here we're kind of thinking what maybe their objections are. What might they be wondering? And then what emotional state are they in? And you can add more there if it's not any of what you see on the screen. All right, so I'm going to hit go and start writing. Go ahead and begin to wrap up whatever thought you're on. And we are going to go to our next set of questions here. So again, 2 minutes on the timer. We're meeting our audience where they are. So how do we want people to feel when they read your content, when they listen to your content, when they watch your content? What kind of relationship do you want to build with your audience? And what does aligned marketing feel like for you? And go. go ahead and wrap up whatever thought you're on. Okay, and last round here. So I'm actually going to give you 3 minutes with this one. So generous, I know. Because this one is gold. Like these, like this, like these ones are gold. Okay, so this is really going to be like good things for you to kind of jump off of in your content. So here we want to look at what are 3 specific situations that your ideal client is dealing with. What are 3 common mistakes or misconceptions? And what are 3 things that I find myself explaining over and over again? And go. All right, and wrapping up that thought. I hope you have lots of good nuggets written down. All right. So this last piece I'm going to go through pretty quickly because I want to open up the chat and I want to be respectful of time and try to keep it within our hour here if we can for those who need to jump off. But here now we're talking about how do we bring all of this information together and actually do something with it, right? And here's where, yeah, sure, there are maybe best practices in terms of how often to post, when to post, where to post, all of these things. But it's more important to meet yourself where you are and look at what is actually realistic. Right. And what is it that you have to do to set yourself up for success with that? So, thinking about what feels realistic for you right now for sustainability. Is it showing up once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week? Think about that frequency and what feels good for you. If you are like my personal process is I'll do one long form piece of content per week, and then I'll use that to kind of break out into smaller pieces of content in other places. Um, And most of you know on here, Substack is the main place that I show up now. So that's kind of my priority, my place that I focus on. Think about where you actually want to show up, not just where you should show up, but where you actually feel called to. I know for me, certain platforms just don't feel good. I think this was subconscious. I didn't even put TikTok on here because I have apparently a mental block for it because I just do not like it at all. um, so figure it like where is it that you want to show up? Where's your primary platform? Because every platform is different, right? There's a lot of intricacies within each of them. They're almost their own unique like culture. So think about where that one place is going to be and really let yourself be there. Because if you want to focus on one place where your people are following you, that way you can make sure that they're always seeing things that are connecting with your values, connecting with what it is that what you do. Um, One second, bud. Um, we knew it was going to happen at some point, right? He waited till the end, though. It's not bad. Um, so, think about where it is that you want to show up and then really letting yourself be immersed there. And then what feels easiest for you to get out there? Are you a writer? Do you want to be on video? Do you prefer audio, storytelling, right? Are you a very creative graphically person and you like making graphics and carousels and reels and like all of these things? So what is it that you actually like and lean into that? All right, hold on one second. Okay, that was an easy one. All right, so what feels easiest, and then thinking about what would make it feel simple and repeatable. So not everybody thrives on habit and repetition and things like that, or routine, I should say. I personally am. So maybe it's finding a routine, maybe it's just a rhythm of every day or every Sunday or something like that that you get into the zone that you really connect and drop in and let what needs to come through and then give yourself that CEO time of saying, "Okay, how can I make this content reach my ideal client at each level of their journey or which level of the journey maybe do I want to focus on this week?" Maybe one week a month you're focusing on the awareness piece and another week you're focusing on that nurture piece. Maybe that last one is when you're really talking a lot about your offer. Like you could create some type of schedule or system like that that works for you. And then the last thing to think about is how are you going to invite people to your offer? So is it sending them a direct link or putting a direct link with your content? Maybe it's commenting something for the link, DMing a conversation, that sort of thing. So kind of having an idea of where it is that you're going to put that out there. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and I want to open it up for comments, for questions. I'd love to hear any moments that you had of clarity. It's Christina had to head out. Okay, bye, Jolene. I don't know if you're already gone or not, but all right. What are we thinking? How are we feeling? Go ahead.
Um, I really liked that five pillars of an aligned content ecosystem. That really, in conjunction with what you shared earlier about awareness, consideration, and decision, that really that sort of, I mean, it was, I think I sort of knew that in a very abstract way, but it was really nice to see it concretely put out there. And
Awesome.
yeah, so thank you. That was really helpful.
Good. I'm so glad. Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah.
I think one of the favorite things that I wrote was that I don't want to offer what I do, I want to offer who I am.
Yeah. Yes. I love that.
I feel like I'm morphing into that too as well. You know, because people don't. You said people don't buy your niche; they buy you, right? So
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And what we offer is so secondary. You know what I mean? Like it's so secondary. And while it is important, right, to like give those opportunities of again, like here's where you take the next step or here's where you do the next thing, but it doesn't even have to be talking about an offer, right? It's really just about that connection. So I love that. Good. What are you guys going to do differently? Or what are you going to do from here? What's something that you took away that you're going to take action on?
Well, first, this is a side note, but I love the design of your slides. They were very pulled me right in. This has really kind of been, I think, the final piece of the puzzle for me to realizing that Substack is really my thing
Oh yeah.
because it represents calm, deliberate writing. It's not trying to, I mean, I don't really think about the algorithm, but I do think about the algorithm. And I'm realizing that my person is downshifting, is trying to find peace. And it's like that's kind of what Substack feels like to me.
Mhm.
Instead of like a ragtag, I sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, and feels like it's going out to the ether, but am I hitting my person? So I'm looking forward to hearing more about Substack later in the program. But feeling like based on all the questions we did, it really feels right for my age group, for what I want to do, and much more doable to be regular in it.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. I know. I'm so excited. I saw you named your publication too. I can't wait to get into it.
I did.
Yay. Thanks, Val. All right. Bye, Jennifer. All
I have a
right.
quick question before I
Go
have to
ahead.
jump
Yeah,
off.
please, Melissa. Go
Will
ahead.
you be sharing the presentation with us? Because I feel like I
To the yeah,
missed.
to the people in the inner circle, the paid offer Oracle subscriber, you guys are gonna get the replay, the slides, and I'm gonna give you the workbook too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate this. Like with my content, I usually don't know which direction to go in. And
Yeah.
like I want to be playful and silly, and I have so many ideas that I just don't know how to recreate in a reel or a carousel or video. So now I actually have like a structure in order to put those together. And I'm so excited about creating some content right now. So excited.
Yay! Oh, that makes me so happy.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Yay! Oh, this was so fun, you guys. I really enjoyed doing this. Thank you so much for being here, for participating. Any other thoughts or aha moments that come in, please let me know. I'd love to hear them. Like I mentioned, I'm going to make the replay available for 48 hours for everybody. So if there's something you wanted to go back and see or whatever, you're welcome to do that. Or if you want to become a paid offer Oracle subscriber, it's $18 a month. You can cancel anytime. And you get lifetime access to this, the workbook, the slides, and we meet monthly. So next month, we are meeting at a date that I can't remember right now. It is in August. I want to say it's maybe August 19th. I actually don't know. Don't quote me on that. It's in August sometime on a Wednesday. And it's going to be networking. So in our monthly calls, we rotate between a workshop, a quarterly planning party, or networking, conscious networking and collaboration and all of that. So you're welcome to come in if that feels good. But otherwise, this was so fun to be with you all, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the weather. Bye.